Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast channels 98 and 22. Channel 98 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 13, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
We'll begin. So Civic Advisory Committee meeting on the 7th of March 2023. Welcome everyone. We have Adam is absent from today's meeting with a family commitment. Nina, I'm not sure, I haven't heard from her, so I have no idea. We haven't seen her for a while, so don't know what's going on.
She was at the last.
She wasn't
She
at
was.
the last.
Oh, she wasn't? No.
No.
Last time I saw her was communication, I think.
Yeah. So, okay, so welcome. Everyone. Welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay, we don't have any public, so there's no public comment. We'll go on to the minutes that were attached to the agenda from 7th of February. Any amendments, changes, comments?
Honestly, only one. It'll all look great, and it was just a typographical error, but it's not important. Help C was written as help C, like help me, help Chris, but it's, I think it's a HELPSY.
Yeah.
And now I can't find it. But again, not important. That was the only thing I saw that struck me. Everything, as far as content, seemed fine.
Oh yeah, it's number 12.12. It should be, it's help with a capital C.
There it is.
Yeah.
So I did want to make a comment. I wanted to thank the committee for allowing me to participate as a member. Obviously, in the minutes, that's what that was mentioned, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, glad to have you.
Thank you, Ryan. Good to have you. More the merrier, as they say. All right. Do a motion to approve those minutes with that change?
I'll second that motion.
I'll second. All right.
All in favor?
Say aye.
Aye.
Oh gosh. Right. Are you taking notes, Jackie?
Yes.
All right. Let's move on to the action items from the agenda. The single-use plastic document. Chris, did you want to say anything to that? Just to remind people.
Yes, it would
and
be
the
great. Hopefully, no matter what, everybody gets out and votes next Tuesday, the 14th, which is our town election for our warrant and a bunch of other local items on there. So whatever your choices are, get out and vote, because that's how it works. Mm-hmm. Certainly, I want to plug that we're in favor of ballot warrant article number 32. Citizen petition to limit the distribution of single-use plastics on town property. It went through the deliberative session and had many of our citizens speak in favor of it. A similar version of that was put before the select board several times and had a lot of support for that as well. I encourage everybody to go to the website and you can read it in advance and certainly come to your own conclusions, but the objective would be just to really limit the amount of stuff we put into the systems. But so, refill your own stuff and stop. If we can prevent the distribution of single-use plastics is one small step we can take as a town to limit plastics in the environment. So that's one of 33 warrant articles, and it's my favorite one. So there you go.
Yeah, I second that. Even if I'm not meant to second it, I will second it.
I have a quick question on that. Are there absentee ballots for
Yes, they are.
the town? Okay.
I think you need to pick it up fairly soon. I think
Okay.
there was because it takes
In
forever
the
to
town
read.
hall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think,
From the clerk.
I don't know if they have them out front, you have to go to the clerk, but is that the clerk, I think? Yeah.
Clerk.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it takes like half an hour to read through
Oh.
on the day. They're huge.
Oh, okay.
It's-
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do post sample ballots online, so you can do your prep at
Prep
home and then
And then,
show up ready to go.
Okay.
yeah. But I think there was somebody posted a link on the forum, the Exeter forum on the Facebook page.
Okay.
Somebody posted a link to get your absentee.
Oh, okay.
And I suspect it'll be on the front page of the town
I'm
website,
sure
but
it'll
if
be.
not, you
Okay.
could go to town clerk and it would be there.
Okay.
Right. Just on that warrant article number 32, may I encourage the members here just to share with people in your network and encourage them to vote yes for that. That'd be really appreciated. Thank you. Right. At the last meeting we had, we formed a subcommittee for the solid waste to just dig deeper into the solid waste issue and see ways in which of reducing it and all kind of things with blue bags and so on and so forth. And it's Chris and Stacey and myself on that subcommittee. We haven't met as yet because everyone's been busy. But we'll get together and get our listing sorted out on that.
Yes.
But you put together a really great outline
Yeah,
to follow. Like,
agreed.
amazing. Yeah. So I think we have a good footing
Yeah.
to start.
So it'll be good to get some.
Did you see some comments I made on the outline?
I haven't looked at
Okay, all right, there you go. More fun reading, there you go.
it. But yeah. So we will work on that outside of this monthly meeting, and then obviously bring any key information, and see where we are as we go with that. And as yet, we don't have a timeline for when we want to do things, but I think once we meet from that document, playing off that document, we could just share some of the stuff that we've written down as to what we are thinking in terms of initiatives and so on to get people to reduce the solid waste and ways in which the town can also look at changing process of collection and so on and so forth. So, a lot to sort of dig into on that. But we'll keep everyone updated on that. Okay. Speakers on the building codes, Kristen.
Sure.
You,
So it was recommended by committee that we look at ways of incentivizing more energy efficient building. And so I thought it would be important for us to learn a bit about the existing efficiencies built into the energy code and the building code. And so I reached out to members from NEAP, which is Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnership. And they said that they would be willing to come and present both what's in the existing code, what could be included if we did consider the 2021, moving toward 2021, or stretch codes and other examples of how you could do that and what that process would look like. So the recommendation was we have a joint committee meeting with Energy and SAC, so we'll do that at the next meeting. we'll have one of the representatives in person and the other attending virtually. But it sounds like they just kind of outlined a little bit of what they were thinking, and it sounds like it will be a great introduction for all of us. That'd be great.
I also, I heard that I reached out to our friend and he said, sorry, let me read this. He said so I asked, cause I wasn't exactly sure what the meeting, I just said, asked like experts to talk regarding sustainable building practices, how to incentivize for a town understanding building codes. That was what I asked. And then he said he wasn't the best person with more legislative knowledge, but recommended someone from Waterville Valley Renewable Energy Committee. And so, and gave me her contact. So I haven't heard back, but if that's someone, maybe someone else. But is that correct with those?
Yeah,
that's the
for
topic.
sure. And I think so. I mean, I think there are many ways that we could look at this. It's not just adopting different building codes or something like that. There could be ways to incentivize through zoning or other things. So I think it's get us educated on what all of those options are, and then figure out the best fit for Exeter.
Okay.
So hearing other examples will only help us. Whether I don't know that it needs to be at the next meeting. I don't think you need to feel pressured for that, but
No, I think
it
would
could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so yeah, like you said, it'd certainly be valuable to take the time to put together a proper agenda for it and all that. But yeah, just to get her on the radar and see if she's game for it. That'd be great.
Okay.
It's funny, I keep reflecting back to, it was a select board meeting, Kristen, it was your department that you and Dave presented, the gentleman from Asheville, North Carolina, when he talked about development density.
Oh yeah, that was an amazing.
And I keep coming back to that as we start to have this discussion of like, because to me that's that third leg of the stool of that as well. It's like, it's not only the code you're recommending and the zoning you propose, but part of that zoning is, maximizing the benefit of the density, and from a conservation perspective, what are we leaving intact and preserving, as well as, I wonder, I'd love to see us weave together with energy and conservation to kind of put together a robust discussion about it.
Yeah, so you would probably also be interested, so Dave had proposed, building off of that, he had proposed, Dave Sharples, the town planner, had proposed a zoning amendment, basically a decent overhaul of our zoning ordinance, reducing the number of zones that we have, but we felt like at this time there really wasn't enough time to vet it before town meeting, and so he's putting together an educational program for the planning board. It'll all be recorded, all about the value of natural resources and how they kind of have these ecosystem services and what they do to maintain water quality, and what happens when you take those away, and how do we supplement that with development, where development should be and shouldn't be, and all of that. So the presentation and kind of program that he's developing is all in prep for diving back into the zoning amendment, and that's still very much on the table for the next year. It's just the planning board wanted some more time to chew on it.
That makes sense.
But I think as a committee supporting things like that, that makes sense. They align with your intent and your purposes. So I think keeping apprised of that, and I can help in any way, like point you to the presentations. But we've been also, staff has been sitting down with Dave and going through every third Thursday, different components, and where can solar be sited, where shouldn't it be, all of this stuff. And so so I think there are areas where this committee could weigh in the process, not just at the end when we vote on it
Sure.
when you vote on it as residents. So I'm happy to share all of that.
That's wonderful. I think it dovetails nicely with what we're talking about right now. That's fantastic. So that's something that's obviously already being developed, and is that a regular agenda item for the planning board, or is it yet to go before then?
I think it's the first I forget, it's either the first or the I don't know.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Okay, fair enough.
One of the things that kind of goes along with that is a deeper understanding of the Inflation Reduction Act, and the understanding of that the incentives provided obviously there's increased incentives for renewable energy projects, etc., but there's also incentives for insulation as well as window replacements. These things are kind of built in, but it's so deep in there in the actual language that it's really hard to find and navigate itself. So I'm not saying that I would be the person to do that, but finding someone that would that has that ability to kind of do a deep dive and have an educated summary for people to reference would be pretty interesting to see, because there are obviously local insulation and window companies that could help their customers get set up with that, with not just the receipts of the document, or sorry, the receipts of their installation, but could put them in touch with specific people that are educated in that tax rule, to help them benefit long term from the tax benefit of that as well. I mean, specifically tailored to my experience, 30% of total system cost is what the Inflation Reduction Act is saying for solar renewable energy projects. Now I'm not sure what the total percentage back on total system or upgrade cost would be for those other things, but obviously any little thing helps make that choice, and energy audits and stuff like that are a big part of that. So
I wonder if there's value reaching out to either Chris Pops' office or Senator's office, Hassan or Shaheen, to get a staffer that's on point on that, on this policy, to come and speak with us. That'd be really cool. That would be great. I don't think I'd ask the senator or the senators or the congressman to come, but certainly their staffer's probably more up to speed on this finite language anyway. It'd be great to see if we can do something like that.
Yeah, we can pick specific topics, and that's I think that would be really important. Focusing on the sustainable act of improving one's home.
Right. What's in it for residents? Right. What's in it for citizens? Right.
Yeah. There needs to be that incentive to benefit. Right.
Yeah.
And obviously there's the environmental benefit for using less fuel, et cetera, but one of the pillars is economic, and money talks, as we all know. So.
Sorry, Chris, Secretary.
I would definitely encourage you all to take a look at the Energy Committee's webpage within the town of Exeter, because we have been plugging in a lot of the incentives there, and you can sort by whatever improvement you're looking to make.
Oh, that's really cool.
One thing that I have noticed with a lot of the Inflation Reduction Act provisions, so many of them are filtered through the state, and our state just is not participating the way that other states are. And so for example, there's a grant available for developing a climate action plan. I was super excited, available to municipalities. Well, it turns out, one, your state has to opt in. If your state doesn't opt in, you could still apply, but it would only go to the top 67 populous municipalities in your region, which includes Massachusetts. So then we're like,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was excited for a second. I thought you were going to say state.
No. And so I don't know. I've been a little I've sat through more webinars than I care to admit, and at the end of them, I'm always like, okay, it's another thing that we can't quite get to, but to me, that speaks to advocating through the legislature.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. Yeah, one of the things recently, I had mentioned that there were in the 2018 building code, there was language that was kind of restricting access for renewable energy projects on rooftop for fire safety provisions, and obviously that's understandable. There are other methods to gain that safe access to roof surfaces, and there is actually a House bill. I don't know the number off the top of my head. I wish I did. that is currently being moved forward to roll back that requirement. So essentially would put us in line with the previous code cycle's installation requirements, which would not limit that as much. So pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Thought maybe I could pull it up real quick, but that New Hampshire, I think I had shared at after the last meeting, the New Hampshire Environmental
Yep.
Yeah.
Committee. There's so much information about the legislative bills that are being proposed, and there was just a recent discussion about that one, so
Yep.
we could get it there.
Yeah, really cool. Obviously, it's tied in with like fire codes and all this stuff, and a lot of people have say. And obviously, it's really important to provide safe access for safety personnel. But the methods that they would benefit by having that access are not common practice anymore, including cutting holes in roof surfaces to vent smoke or fire in a controlled location. If there is a fire in a home, essentially fire staff is not really getting up on roof surfaces anymore to do that. Most staff are, as long as people are safe, that's their main concern. So.
Okay. So we aiming for the speakers for
April,
April,
if that works for everyone. It worked for their calendar, so I hope it works.
Do you want to wait for till May when you're back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
why don't we aim
oh,
for
really?
May?
Good, Nepal.
Oh, no.
Oh wow.
I can check what their availability is. But if they're not available in
Then you
May,
can go
or
ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was it the first Tuesday and it like next
Yeah,
meeting was
next
this?
meeting,
Okay.
yeah.
So but we're gonna look at May.
Yeah, I can check.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, obviously based on their availability for sure.
Yeah.
We'll call you.
Yeah.
FaceTime.
No Wi-Fi.
FaceTime, right?
I mean, the good thing is it will be recorded, so
Yeah.
we'll have,
I can have a party.
So when you're in your tent
Yeah.
in the Himalayas.
There's no building codes there. All right. Are we good to move on? Yeah. Okay. So Earth Week, we had a discussion at the last meeting about following the HELPC presentation to the select board of doing something and encouraging people to not throw their textiles into the landfill and so on, and that we could have a collection through the local school. Then the local school would benefit from that, and I think HELPC would provide the bins and would collect and everything else. So I think we opted to do something for Earth Week as an outreach thing, I guess. So that would be the week commencing the 17th of April, and it would be the local school, as in the Main Street.
Yeah, I think our options are limited. Working with schools, obviously, we pretty much have to be either Main Street, Lincoln Street, or that'd be it.
That's it.
Because they're the
Probably
only ones that are.
CMS.
Well, CMS and EHS fall under SAU 16,
Yeah.
not under the Exeter School District. Yeah. Even though they're all part of SAU 16,
Yeah.
the governance is different. So.
So did we have contact at those schools? I don't have any contact.
I do, yeah.
Did you connect with
I
anyone?
did not.
Okay.
But I can and will.
So I'm just trying to think how much time HELPC needs. With
Yeah, we broke the meeting and someone was going to check in that direction and I was going to check in this
the
direction.
school direction. Okay.
We do need, we just need to, who was with us? Maybe it was, I want to say it felt like Russ Dean was going to look into it. I don't know why. Was it in a bigger meeting? when Helpsy came up. It wasn't the bigger meeting, it was in the select board meeting when Helpsy came up and they presented to select board, right?
But they were gonna look at the transfer station, weren't they? They were looking
Yeah,
at
Which
as
that
well.
did get implemented.
Rented.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a bin at the transfer station for
So
drop
maybe I'm
off.
just conflating that. Okay, well, the other thing we could also do, we can check and see if they want to participate directly, and if not, we can, as the committee and partnered with the school, we can collect and bring it to the transfer station.
Yeah.
So I'll happily reach out to the school if someone wants to reach out to Helpsy.
I can do that. Give me a check.
I'm putting it in my agenda right now, so I don't want to forget.
And then maybe the students can even draw a poster and
Absolutely.
put it around the school,
Yeah.
couldn't they? They could do that. So that's a week commencing the 17th of April, with Earth Day being on the 22nd, which is a Saturday, I believe. So, alright. So the one at the transfer station is in place. Do we know? Has that been overly publicised anywhere or not?
It's definitely, I know that it was in the Exeter bi-weekly report. It's been shared on social media.
Okay.
And there's something on the town's website.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, that's great because then you don't have to worry about, collaborating with a friend to get it because it's a 3-bag minimum.
Yep.
That way you can just take it down there.
With your compost
Yeah.
and do it all at once. Yeah.
It's interesting though. So we started doing that after that select board meeting. All of us ran home and started collecting our stuff. We're going to get 3 bags together. So I dug a little deeper in their website. It doesn't say what size bag. So if you're having a tough time getting 3 bags, you can get 3
3
grocery
bags.
bags together. It doesn't.
I was wondering that.
It does not
actually.
say.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Good to know.
But you don't get, right. Less trips to individual homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But the whole idea of neighborhood collaboration is easy,
Yeah.
right? That's an easy
Yeah.
street thing. to
So
do.
good.
It would be so fun to have like a neighborhood challenge, like a couple rival neighborhoods who are like, we're gonna collect more than you.
Well,
Maybe
on
for
that
Earth
note,
Week,
well,
they
maybe
could do.
yeah.
We could put that out.
And what the Exeter PD is really good about doing, we've been doing this on our street for more than 10 years, is we close our street down once a year for a block party. And
Yeah,
they'll-
we do as well.
Oh, do you as well? So they're really good about that. So why not have like an Earth Week Helpsy barbecue in the middle of your street and shut it down for a couple hours and have everybody bring their stuff, and we can even promote the idea. I don't know how many streets they can shut down at once in town, but even if you just pick somebody's house and did a barbecue and or whatever, and hot cocoa and Helpsy or whatever. So yeah.
Mhm. So I wonder, and connect with the hazardous waste time as well.
Right,
That was the other
October,
suggestion,
right?
wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we imagine if we did that twice a year, once in April, once in October, to have sort of a town-wide collective for that would be pretty powerful. That'd be pretty cool. I'm taking a note about that.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'll contact Helpsy and figure out how many bins they can provide, or how big they are, and for the 2 schools.
Yep.
ALY Festival, Kristen.
So I reached out to chairs of the various environmentally oriented committees just to see if there was interest in participating again. Chetna felt like this committee would be interested. I wanted
just
to talk.
spoke
Right,
collectively.
yeah. I thought it'd be good to talk about it here. There's still a lot. I'm kind of behind the 8 ball this year. Last year I was a little more organized with it, but my goal is to organize the event, but have the committees plug into it. So I'm not kind of working individually doing the posters for the different committees and stuff. So the dates that, based on when ALYs ran last year, the dates that align for a Saturday are May 14th and May 20th. But May 20th is the Exeter Arts event at Parkway, so I don't want to compete. The good thing this year is the 14th is not the same date as I forget what it's called, but the Healthy Run, like Get Fit in May or something like that.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
There was a 5K that morning, and a lot of kids, a 5K and a fun run, I guess, and a lot of kids and families were obligated to that. So we wouldn't overlap with that. We're thinking of more of a concise event rather than an all-day activity, just to kind of build on efficiencies. And I really haven't brainstormed. I haven't pulled everyone together yet, but it sounds like you all are on board.
Yep.
Yes.
What is the alewives?
Right. So alewives are a fish. It's a river herring that live in the salt water most of their lives, but they swim up saltwater rivers to fresh waters, lay their eggs, and then all the young hatch and then swim back out to the Sargasso Sea. And so we recently removed the dam in downtown Exeter, and so the health of the river has dramatically improved. The alewives are coming back in numbers that we haven't seen on record before, and so in part it was celebration of water quality and our connection to the river, and then at the last event it was bringing all of and it used to be not just town-based volunteer organizations, but all sorts of organizations would come together, and it was pretty big for many years on Swayze Parkway. Like, it was a packed event, but we just brought it back for the first time last year, and all the volunteer committees got together and had a table and just had an environmental fair sort of in downtown. Wow. Yeah, and we moved it to the Founders Park to kind of build some steam. Oh. So the work for the committee would be coming up with what is it you want to present or display or something along those lines, and who would be there for the event to help pull it off.
It is a silly, maybe not silly question. Should we, do they adjust the date depending on, like, if there's changes in the alewife run? Are we Festivus regardless of alewife? Just because you have to pick a date, right?
Right, you have to pick a date. We happened to luck out last year when they came in mass. It was incredible to see them in so many numbers that, like, you could not see the river bottom. It's it's just clouds of fish. It's crazy. Yeah. And so we happened to luck out. I think we can guess that it probably would be then, but there have been years that it snowed during the Alewife Festival and the alewives were nowhere near Exeter. So, but I think just for the nature of it, you'd need to kind of plan a date. Last year we had things like Guess the Alewife Run, and we raffled off a contest for the guesses, but we didn't get many guesses. So rather than invest in, this shotgun approach to all of these different ideas, I think it's targeting, a few specific activities by each committee and then building off of that in years to come.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I know we talked about this from last year's festival in terms of footfall being with kids, sort of sports and things like that happening. So whether there was the thought of tagging it with team
20th,
with the festival, because Scott Ruffner, and that draws in a lot more people coming into town, and then tagging this, but this would be earlier, because I think the music festival stuff starts later, around 11, is it?
I don't know.
I think it's 11 or 10.
But I do see the value. When you divide an audience, everybody loses, right? If you can, I'd be more interesting to work with them than run against them, for sure.
Because I
know from the Conservation Commission perspective, their interest was really to focus on the river and the water quality, and so they were worried that voice would be lost in a larger event, and so I don't know what we do.
Well, I guess what I'd say is it's certainly worth having the conversation, and if we can secure some time where the AOI Festival would be a focus of attention, and even if they do kick off later, if we could start off in the same place, have our arms around people, and release them to the
Yeah.
Well, that was,
music and arts, yeah.
yeah, that was the sort of idea that I think we started at 9, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think last year, 9 to 1. And then we had the group that came and did land acknowledgement, and then we had, we had other activities, and then the fishery game talked about the fishes and
Yeah.
whatever. And
It's also not such a big town also, so if we did do it at Founder's Park to at least, but I guess I'd say co-promote that there's a lot going on that day in
Yeah.
Exeter, to come downtown
Yeah.
and spend the day downtown and all that, I just think
so I
that's.
think if it was timetabled to say, okay, well, 9 o'clock we do this, and then you've got the alewife stuff, and then you can go on to Swayze Park for the rest of the,
Right.
For the
Not a crazy-
vendors, for
a nice day
other
out,
things
yeah.
happening, then, because I think Skolrefner and his festivals draws a lot of people from all over,
Mhm.
not just Exeter, and it's a good, good time for people to be out. And parents with younger kids who are up and about early, they would come to Founders Park first, and then they could go off to learn a bit more about the fish and whatever, and then they can go off and.
It would really be helpful to know what that time frame is for sports in the morning here, because it seemed like, I think it was like 11:30 before things really kind of picked up there, and so I don't, maybe first thing in the morning is bad. I don't, maybe you all with kids and sports know better than me, but I don't know. The best thing, I think the next best step is to get some of these interest groups together and kind of brainstorm and come up with a plan. So I think there's value in both, and I can plus and minus both options.
Yeah, and like I say, at minimum, at least acknowledging the other the other activities that are going on and planning around them, not in conflict with them, and in promoting, co-promoting is a great idea. Everybody wins in that. So, yeah,
Right.
worst case.
Yeah, and Scott did say he's willing to help promote, so.
Great.
So should I reach out to you in coordinating the planning committee? Was that best? Do you wanna
Yeah, sure.
voluntold someone else?
Voluntold.
Anybody want to volunteer? Yeah. I think last year also, I think from our perspective, it was good. We had 2 PA students who were doing an environmental project, and they did a project on how to encourage residents to reduce their junk mail. So so it was great for us because they came and volunteered during the Alewife festival. They made a poster, and then they were able to talk to some of the residents who walked by about what they could do, website they could go to, and so on. So I think that was quite informative for people. And I'm just sort of thinking ahead in terms of what we would be plugging would be plastic free.
Well,
Depending on what the outcome is from,
Sure.
just sort of a presentation or a whatever a discussion.
It's something
on-
relevant to the, I mean, it would work pretty nicely. I will volunteer to run down as much as I can on sports stuff. I mean,
That'd be great.
Greg will know obviously the things that the town runs and also who he contracts fields to, but all of it isn't certainly knowable.
No,
But I'll find out as much as that as is knowable. So.
Over
Okay.
those, May 14th or the 20th.
I mean, maybe it's bringing in people who energy efficiency experts, and saying, hey, they could, these are the entities that offer home audit options,
Mm-hmm.
All right. I don't want it too big.
No.
That was really overwhelming, I will say.
Oh, I think you said
But we
something.
have a ton of pint glasses left. So we'll bring those back again.
Yeah, you said something really good. I think if there are all these different committees that have, a critical and tangential interest, it's just like, great, bring me, you can be much more of a quarterback instead of trying to play every position, right?
Have a bin from Helpsy
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also, yeah.
also. Just
Yeah, I
carry-
think promoting helps see more. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It was such an interesting
Yep.
meeting, and
Yeah.
if there's Yeah, it's like it just needs to be promoted
Yeah.
more because it's such a great idea.
It is. It's
And cause,
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, everything come together. Alright. So did you want to just double check with Scott, Kristen?
Sure.
On the 20th in terms of their timings and how we think it would work? That'd be great. Okay. The next thing on the agenda, we've got the environmental film screening. Kristen mentioned the climigration, Gen Z mental health issues with climate stories is available sort of for free for us to screen. And so the idea is that would we want to do a screening of this film, and when do you think, and where?
So at the high level, yes, but but I think it's like everything else. It's just, so put it in this one bucket helps you with the school, right? That's an Earth Week, Earth Day thing, right? Well, this would be a great Earth Day thing. You just have to, it's just choice making, right? Do you say forget the schools, do a Helpsy thing and screen it at the town hall, and your admission to see the film and have popcorn is you're donating something in the Helpsy bin. I mean, that's one way to run it. But it's hard to do everything, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the one of the other things I think what we tried to do last time, well, way before like COVID, was to do it in partnership with PA.
Yeah.
So again, that could be a potential of where with the environmental club at PA and see if they can, because then the students would attend if it's during their when they're in session, and then open it up to to residents as well.
Yeah, at least that way you have a promotional partner that can help drive it, and if it's students and parents related there, and they invite citizens as well, at least you'll get some butts and seats for sure. I think it's just that's where we're just not a machine that's prepared, that's capable to promote heavily, especially if we take on multiple things. It's just I think we've learned that lesson. So.
But do we want this? Would we want to do this screening totally separate, away from Earth Day and away from sort of April sort of things, and do it at another time, or open to suggestions?
I think that's completely feasible to do it at another time. We're not so committed with other things.
We probably just would want to make sure we're keeping PA's schedule in mind. Like when the students are there, we
Right.
probably want them to be there. So they
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. I mean, I can reach out to the students at PA, the environmental club.
It's a good place to start, and if they don't end up being a good fit, then we can
If they're
find.
interested.
But I do like the idea of a partnership with it,
Yeah.
so to find somebody else to help us, promote it and fill the hall.
All right. I will try and do that.
It does look like, I have a link to the
Yeah.
trailer. It looks like an incredible movie.
Yeah.
Happy to send it around.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
That organisation looked amazing,
It did,
didn't it?
yeah.
That was just, yeah. Okay, grants. Grants.
Oh, yeah. So, I haven't done anything. I have, well, that's not true. So, Adam said that he would help work with me. I feel like there was someone else too, to review a draft application.
Yeah.
I started one for the Charitable Trust or Charitable Foundation, Hampshire Charitable Foundation. It does require a 501(c). That's who gets the grant, and so I reached out to Scott Ruffner because through the plastics presentation they expressed strong interest in being a partner on that project. He said absolutely, we are a 501(c). he's happy to be a part of the reviewing as well. So I'll just kind of draft up an application. The application, before we can apply, we would need, it's a rolling deadline, by the way, so we're not up against, I believe, so we're not up against a timeline. But we would, before we actually apply, we would need permission from the select board to apply for the grant, and I would also want to touch base again with the Swayze Parkway trustees. They were supportive of installing a water bottle refill station out there, but that was a bit ago, so I'd want to be sure that everyone's on board before we press play. So stay tuned, I guess.
Okay.
Okay. Did we want to do that survey as to another location in town?
Sure.
How best do you think that would be?
I feel like we should, my perspective is I would rather build on the success of a positive install first.
Yeah.
None of the grants that we're looking at are enough to install more than one. So I would think get that installed and then maybe.
I got a cookie
Yeah.
idea. For the cost of quick laminations at Staples, why don't we put a QR code at each of the playground bubblers that are going to be turned on? And when they're turned on, we can put a little QR code there to take people to a survey to see if they'd like to have the sip of water somewhere else in town, wherever they like it to be.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, whatever we like to use, Google form or whatever we like, but at least you'll have a target-rich environment,
Yeah.
a customer that's willing to lean over and drink from a water fountain,
Mm-hmm.
and where else would they like to get one?
And for
Great idea.
transparency, just to say that I reached out to PA, the principal, on the potential for how we could work with them to, or maybe they could even install a water fountain by the boathouse, which is then be used for public as well as, So yeah, so I put all the information out there, so I'm waiting to hear back.
Okay.
So just to
That's great.
to put it out there in terms of, because that would be great if there was one there with people
Yeah.
at the beginning of
Mhm.
Swayze Park. So yeah, so that, and also the students can fill up
Mhm.
using the boathouse.
Can you walk from the boathouse to the parkway?
On the sidewalk.
Can you
if you go out around.
You have to go out.
They used to be able to go across the backside, but they've since fenced it.
Okay.
Probably
Oh, yeah,
just
that's
too
fenced
much
in,
too
yeah.
much traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the question. Yeah, well, I guess hurdle one is to see if they have interest. And then
Yeah,
they can-
and then it's a question of whether, I mean, obviously there's, I guess, on what land it sits on.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the pavement side, and then whatever, but anyway.
Also worth mentioning on this topic is a topic I sit on communication meeting as well. One of the things that Robert and Glowacki and the whole communication team are looking into is right now, I think we operate 4 different email services. Parks and Rec certainly has their own. Public Works has their own. There's a couple other around town. They all develop organically for all logical reasons. There's some value, obviously, in merging those and managing them as one. There's cost involved in that as well, and not to mention also that tax collection and water collection, they have one as well. So one of the ideas I kept pushing on, they're looking into to check with legal is all the taxpayers get a tax bill and they get a quarterly water bill. It's a great place to communicate, right? You can ask questions there. You can put, or if you register your car here, you get an email about. So we've already got these vessels of communication going out. We're just looking to see if we can put other information on there. And that's what I love about, I think thanks to COVID, the QR codes finally come of age, right? We kind of didn't know what to do with them 10 years ago. Now we know. But I think it's a great opportunity, especially since phones, all the cameras now automatically drive to a website. We could, once a quarter, if we can get some approval on these things, use that as a vehicle just to reach houses. And, I don't know how many water bills we send out. It's some 10,000 plus water bills that we send out. And if you only get a 4% return, survey return, that's still pretty massive.
Yeah.
That's a great return, you know. So, I think putting something at a station, that's one thing I think that could work with the 3 water fountains, but I want to continue to look into using the things that are already happening and how do you piggyback on those, because I think one of the things that we're, maybe just me, maybe I'm learning, is that, unlike private industry where you just like get a team on it and invest in it and go, we can't really do that in town government, so you have to use the tools that are already happening. So, but yeah, I think that could be an exciting one as a kind of in place, constant churning mechanism for us to if we get approval. So
Yeah. I feel like communication is one of the biggest
it's the
issues.
hardest. It's the
yeah,
hardest.
and how do you get these messages across? Because there could be so much change if people just knew about.
It's super
Knew about
complicated. It really is. I mean, just the emotions that are attached to even like social media, right? If you've watched select board and budget meetings regarding the town and the police and fire, either scaling up or scaling back their social media, and what the purpose of that is, and how to build an entire communication toolbox for these things. That our town doesn't have a public information officer, for example. If there's a disaster or something terrible should happen in town, how do we handle that? It's a pretty complex thing. We're kind of growing from this little village to a bigger town, and we're going through all those growing pains right now. So yeah.
So there's a communication committee?
There's a committee, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But it's fledgling.
Mm.
And they need more members.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need more
And you can serve on
volunteers.
more than one committee.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
But then we can't have 4 SAC members. It's you and Nina.
Me and
are both-
Nina.
Yeah, exactly.
We can have a quorum of SAC at the communications.
Just combine them both.
Communication and sustainability? That's weird. It's like lawnmower and fruit store. What the hell is that?
Put sustainability on every communication.
That's my secret
Don't
mission.
cut down trees.
QR code.
It always goes back to one place, no matter what I promise them. How are they going to know? Exactly.
Just take over the town. Just take over the town. But on that, I must say that the annual report that were printed and was posted on the picture of all those, or the boxes of the annual report, available free to pick up, and somebody messaged me saying, what on earth are we doing? It's 2023, and then I thought, oh my God, and it's like, why? Why have we got these piles? Why are we doing this? Why are we printing so many?
Well, we
annual
do.
reports?
There is an RSA that requires municipalities to print their town reports.
How many though?
Right, but we only print, we base the number that we print based on what gets picked up the prior year. So there are that many people wanting the town report. That's the reality of it. When you look at it with boxes on the wall, it looks like a lot, but not everyone is laptop friendly. A lot of
Yeah,
people
I appreciate
want
that. I appreciate that. But
the
there's
paper
there's
copy.
also ways in which you can be reduced.
No, agreed. And one of the things that comes up in communication committee all the time is exactly that. Is there's a lot of the information that we do presently push out in electronic newsletters. There's still a reasonable size of our population that want to have that as a paper copy. That they're emailing their grandkids maybe, and that's about it. They really don't want to be reading on a tablet or a laptop. They want to hold it, and that's valuable. But the question is how much and how many, and can it be on demand? Is there another way to do it?
Library.
But I think if we had a bunch laying around that people weren't picking up, I get it. But we
Yeah.
don't have that scenario.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I guess if the demand still exists and there's an
Right.
RSA code for it, yeah.
yeah.
But it's also how it's printed.
Yep. Also,
In terms
yeah.
of being recyclable. There's you go into that because if it's glossy, if it's the way the inks are used and the paper, whatever, it doesn't get recycled. So.
As well, yeah.
Anyway,
We can just burn them with the next book burning at the same time.
CO2. No.
Front back, maybe. Yeah.
Sorry.
Front and back.
Yeah, double-sided.
Double-sided. Yeah. Please.
But it'd be interesting to see. I appreciate that they get people pick them up, but it'll be interesting to see whether there's again a different mechanism whereby we can have paper, printed copies available to people who want them, and how it can be reduced, I guess.
No, agreed. And I know. And I had an opportunity to have a conversation with our select board members, and I'll happily share. I won't say who, but I suggested that unlike a lot of other committees, I think this is arguably one of the more activism-oriented committees. And while we're going to do our best not to be partisan activists on the committee, that we are really trying to advise the town the best things to do and all these manners in the charge that are sustainable. But part of that is exactly what the question you raised, right? We always need to be asking those questions. We always need to be pushing back a little bit on practice. We just have to. And yes, because there is a state ordinance or an RSA that says we have to do this, well, we need to always test and question, and that's kind of the role of this. So we can't just, this is not the status quo committee. This is the sustainability committee, and if things were just great now, sustainability-wise, we probably wouldn't have a committee, right? So it's because there's a need for it. So I think as long as we're respectful and we keep, I think it's got to be our role to just keep testing, and checking. So.
And I think we provide, the town provides different ways of that annual report. You've got your PDF download, you've got your link to it on the website and so on, so there are other ways in which you can also access that.
Which can have an impact on the quantity you print.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And there are those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm saying.
still-
Saying that, but as each year goes by, it's like, well, okay, are there other ways in which we can reduce the number of printed copies, and then have reference ones available in the town, in the town hall and the library and so on and so forth. Anyway.
And the way to do that is to reach out to your neighbors and say, hey, do you really need that?
Yeah.
Because they're getting picked up, that has to change first, I guess, is what I mean, before it.
Yeah, that
before
may
the
never
town.
completely go away, right?
Yeah.
I think
It can't.
it can't, right?
Yeah.
So it's just getting in front of that, right, and learning how do we mitigate that quantity. Where and I don't know. I looked at it online, but where do you pick it up here? Is it where?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
here. They'll have them at town meeting.
Okay.
You can pick them up there. That have copies
On
at the
election
library.
day, they'll
Yeah.
have them at the.
So if we're going to make the document, so maybe one thing that we can recommend in combination with the communication committee is, why isn't there a survey on that document saying, you've just received this as a paper document. Would you be open to downloading this? And what we should be asking the customer who's picking it up. Do you really need this, right? Remember that old thing used to be on everybody's email 10 years ago? Do you need to print this email?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Do you need this printed document?
Yeah.
And it's okay if you do, but we just would like to know for next year's number. Since we already printed it, we may as well just put it on there.
Yes. All right. Anything else?
I do have one thing. I feel like I had two things, but I can't think of it. The second one. So the first one is community power is going to happen. It was voted in March 2022. And the rate is going to be locked in, I believe, next week. So you will be receiving, as a Unitil customer, a postcard in the mail in the next few weeks of what that rate is, a reference to a website to learn more information, how that rate compares to Unitil's default rate, and how you opt out should you choose. And so community power, if you're not familiar, is the town of Exeter signed on with a coalition to basically authorize this nonprofit to shop for better rates, electricity rates for us. And so we committed to not move forward with it unless our rate was 5% lower than Unitil's base default rate, and it will definitely be. It may even be quite a bit lower than that. So the town, every Unitil customer will be transitioned automatically to community power. You'll still receive a Unitil bill, but it'll say, that for the I always forget the name of the category, the line item. It's like power supplier or something like that. It'll have a different name than it typically does. And you have the option to opt out. If you don't want to save money, you don't want to go along with it, that's fine, you can do that. You can also opt up. And so we're providing both a default plan that has a certain percentage of renewable energy source power. You can opt up to different levels of plans, and those different levels will also be identified on the postcard. So they'll cost more, obviously, if you opt
But
up.
opting up means you're buying more
You're
renewable?
buying more. You're getting more of your electricity from renewable sources.
Interesting. So I'm curious, like, as a consumer, like we have 11.8 kilowatt hours on our roof. I push that back to Unitil. If I'm already getting an overwhelming portion of my power from my own home, I will just, since I'll be defaulted into community power, still be defaulted to that, or we don't know that?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can find that out
Okay.
and let you know. I know there was discussion about how it works with people who have existing solar, and there's something there, and I don't know what it is.
Okay.
I don't want to say the wrong thing.
No.
Yeah.
I'm curious to find out. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it.
So look for that in your mailboxes, and please try to help spread the word to your neighbors so that they're
Absolutely.
aware of the transition. A lot of people it'll just happen and they'll just be like, oh, our rates went down, you know.
Okay. I think the other thing was the charge
Yes.
coming in front of select board.
Yes.
Was that, did Nico say yes to that? That it needed to be in front
It
of?
does. So the select board does need to approve the charge.
That we changed.
Yeah,
Amended
the revised,
the
yeah, yeah.
revised one.
And he suggested he identified a date for. Sorry, I'll let you know. March 20th is when they'll discuss that at the select board meeting. So it would be helpful to have
I'll go.
a
Yeah.
member. Great.
I won't be in Nepal, so I'll be here.
And then I had suggested that might be if we're far enough along with the grant application, that might be a good time to bring it up for them.
Yep.
And by far enough along, I mean just double checking with the Swayze Parkway trustees to be sure that they're on board. I don't think we need to have the grant ready to go. We just need permission to apply and have some rough numbers, which we have.
Okay.
No, but there was something else.
Time up for the committee time renewal.
Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. So, good job. That's why you're. So there are two members whose terms are up. Stacy and Nina will be needing to renew. You've either received something from Pam, or you will be. No. So you'll get an email from Pam because you were plugged into an existing term, so it was a shorter time period.
Okay.
And then Nina will need Nina.
I just pulled it up.
Yeah, Nina I think was
Nina's
the one, right?
4 of 23.
Yeah.
Yep. Stacy's 4 of 23.
Oh, next month?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the terms expire at the end of the month, so technically you're still a member through April, but
Oh,
you'll
I
need to
didn't-
just, you'll
Let
get an
Pam
email
know.
from Pam and you'll
Okay.
say, hey, I do want to continue.
Oh, do all terms end in April?
They all
They
end
do.
in April, but the
Oh.
year
They stagger.
is staggered. So only 2 people from the committee expire this year.
Okay.
Yeah. I expired last year,
Okay.
Yeah.
and then
And on 2024.
Okay.
Yeah.
But summers are off. Is that like? Is the meeting years like September to September to
we
June?
do that. We do have them in the summer, but
Oh, you do?
this past summer we
postponed
took
them
2 months off
Oh,
just
okay.
because
because.
everyone
That
was
was-
away and
Got
not
it.
much
Okay,
was
so it
happening.
is all okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. And so then the other thing associated with that is at the end, so at your next meeting, you should be thinking about who's holding what positions. Do you want to mix it up? Do you want to, how do you want who's chair, who's vice chair, and who's who's recording secretary, and so.
It was short.
But
It was short, wasn't
we
it?
Just,
We just
right.
did that. We just
Jackie's
did
just getting
Normally
warmed
that
up.
happens-
We just did
I
that.
mean, it was a long meeting. My fingers
So normally that happens, you discuss it in April and vote at the May
When
meeting.
did we do it? I think we did it in November.
It was
We just
September.
did
We
it.
did it. No,
It
we
was
just did
literally
it.
just-
We
did it later.
just did it in November.
So it does feel like a short.
So every
session.
April is when those rolls.
Yeah.
Oh,
Rules change.
Discussed and, okay.
But we didn't do it till November.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our chair will be away in the April meeting, so we can't talk about it unless we're in meeting. Do you want to call a special session?
Well, so the vote should happen in May.
In May,
You
okay.
serve through April.
Okay.
So, but you might want to talk about it before the May meeting so everybody knows. Hey, are you still planning on doing it? Do you want to? Do you not want to? So that you can come to the meeting prepared to vote.
Makes sense.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone
Yeah.
profound to share?
I had we obviously were at the all boards, the all committee meeting, and that was a pretty interesting experience for me as kind of an introduction to volunteer committees at a town level, and I was just amazed as to how many participants there were. I was really kind of I was kind of excited about it to see like the different levels of participation between the different committees and which committees seem to be succeeding based on their the quantity of people involved, and the others that I don't want to use the word suffering, but were in a position where they were looking to get more members, and based on the fact that there weren't a lot of members, were unable to kind of enact their agenda, and it kind of really struck me as one of the reasons why I was interested in joining a committee whatsoever, was to put forth change based on something that I was personally invested in, and some of the other committees that have like kind of some lack of membership or struggling to find membership are committees that are very important for kind of recording the past history of our town.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. Heritage Committee has 5 openings, and Historic District Commission has 6 openings.
Yeah, and those specifically were the ones that I was like, yikes. And there was talk about the combination of committees. And I was curious about your opinion specifically for why wouldn't someone want to combine committees that are so kind of in lockstep goal-wise, and it might not be an appropriate time, but it's just an interesting situation to me where in order to achieve the goals that they both have, similar, is there a specific reason why combining those groups would kind of work against them, I guess?
You're asking me.
I am. Yeah. Yeah, because of my lack of experience in this kind of realm, I'm just like, to me it was like kind of like, oh, so you both want to secure the town's history and historic sites and maintain the
And there was
the understanding. There was pushback.
strong, there was strong pushback on that. No, I was surprised.
I guess to play devil's advocate, right? Energy Committee and Sustainability, others who aren't on those committees could have a similar opinion.
Sure.
And
Sure.
so I think the worry is when you have a committee established and you dissolve it or combine it in some way, getting it back is harder.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's feeling by individuals that we just need to promote the vacancies more,
Yep.
and we need to keep both committees. So that's my perspective.
Sure.
But I also know that it's very challenging as an applicant when you can't get quorum to function. What do? You
Right.
know, and so I don't know why
Okay.
individuals feel strongly. That would be my suspicion,
Okay.
that it's really hard to reestablish once you dissolve, right?
Yeah.
And so they do play different roles. Yes, they're generally similar, but they do
Sure.
play different roles.
Absolutely understood.
It's interesting, I look at conservation, energy, and sustainability there. It's definitely a Venn diagram. They overlap in some areas, but they're different enough that it's pretty easy to quickly get to the point where like, oh yeah, they kind of be different. I was looking at historic district and heritage commission, and while I respect that their roles are different, it's also not hard to imagine a larger committee that could handle both sets of responsibilities. But
Right,
yeah.
right. So you could say the same thing. Right?
Sure.
Like,
Yeah. And I.
sustainability, conservation, energy, combine them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a larger committee, but yeah.
But
And
then
I-
also, would it be unwieldy? Is that too big of an agenda? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good question.
Yeah, and I guess I don't mean by any means to come off disrespectful
Yeah.
to anyone. I personally don't understand. And that is something that, I guess is on me to investigate if I really am that curious as to the different roles that both of those committees play and understand more the differences.
Julie Gilman is a strong advocate for maintaining both of those committees, and she's really open to conversation. You could simply ask her, and she would
Yep.
be more than happy to explain the nuances between the committees.
Yeah, it's definitely on the energy committee. I've seen her multiple times.
Yeah.
So, yep, absolutely. Yeah, and in that meeting as a whole, it was very cool. And outside of like school government and stuff like that, haven't really seen a group that is motivated for the benefit of municipality, and I thought that it was very eye-opening and kind of inspiring to see how many people would show up at something like that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, local government is incredibly interesting because we are very dependent on volunteers to function for every aspect of our government.
Sure.
And so, I think I love that they're bringing the all boards meeting back. I hope to have it be something where you can also learn about the different committees in the future. That was really the first time they brought it back in a long time, so it was a little bit more process and procedures.
yeah.
But you just to know that there are all these different avenues to get involved locally is so cool, and I think that I agree. It's not by mistake that I participate in a local government, because I think it's really cool.
Yeah, and I think the process part was as dry as it can be is obviously extremely important, and that was brought up about just in the whole reply all conversation that was 20 minutes plus at least was the repercussions.
Right, they're huge.
It invites significant legal action against the town, and the risk that the town takes by having these volunteer committees. They would get nothing done without them, granted, but is something that that I had no idea could be so invite so many repercussions.
Right. And I think that's why, you know, I know it's hard to have to hear it all the time, but that's why we're such sticklers for process, because even I don't want to say minor votes. You don't have applicants coming to you to build a building, you know, so
Right.
your votes maybe don't carry that kind of financial repercussion, but there are repercussions. And so if you're making votes for policy change or whatever that is, if your votes aren't made properly and there's some dispute about it down the road, then they'll go back to meeting minutes. We get a lot of people going through old meeting minutes to figure out how stuff was said. So what you're doing, like, it's significant.
Yeah.
And so if they go back and find that votes weren't properly taken, or then the whole purpose for the vote in the first place could be null and void. And so I know it's tiring, but it's really, really important because it carries a lot of weight.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that one thing that, if possible, that I would be interested to see is, you know, there was the kind of the proper language sheet, right? The manner as to how you conduct a meeting, right? And, you know, I think that, you know, as you know, it's like, it's 2023, right? So it's like, as semi-obtuse as some of the language might seem, I think that if it's possible to have like a copy of that, just like here always, right? Exactly, would be like, it's like just super important to have constantly in our meetings, to make sure that we're going through that, to make sure that there is no like possibility of that. Like you said, you know, these votes aren't carrying like major financial implications, but it would be nice to follow the proper process.
But they still have implications, right?
Yes.
Like, think about the single-use plastics ordinance or policy. Like, that could be disputed down the road, and should that happen, they're going to come back to the minutes, you know? So it's important.
Yeah.
And it feels a little awkward, like you feel like you should have the white wigs on and
Exactly.
but it's important.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So apologies in advance to continue pushing forward the formalities, but there's reason.
No.
Apologies for not knowing any of them and making you remind us every time.
But the not to belabor this, but the importance of that to me is, that is my role. My role here is to ensure that volunteer boards are doing it right, you know, and really, you not knowing it, sitting on a board says, we didn't really do a good job of training you when when you were initially put on the board.
To be fair, I sit on 3 boards, and I've never had any training for any of them, and I've just from observation have been trying to pick up stuff. So,
which is why we have staggered terms.
The discussion of the proper onboarding and the methods of that, Nico, I think, was talking about in the future. The select board is coming up with a plan to, you know, essentially have a small little introductory class as to,
That's a great idea.
you know, how to participate in your local government.
It's great.
It would be really like just neat.
Yeah.
I think also to encourage more people to volunteer, you know, it's just to have a sort of a fly on the wall type, you know, information of what goes on, you know, in, you know, how much time, if you were going to run to be a select board member, how much time do you have to dedicate to that role? You know, that kind of sort of everyday sort of information.
It'd be a great piece for Robert to put together and put
just-
on Extra TV, just to get an informational piece of what it means to be a
we need-
volunteer member right up through select board.
Yeah, we need more diverse people from, you know, all walks of life within this town, and
Definitely.
you know that you know, sitting at the all boards meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, the average age was what?
Yeah.
You need a diverse. You need people, and you need people to be comfortable in volunteering and coming
Yeah.
forward and joining these these committees.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it like a day in the life of a select.
Right. Yeah, that'd be.
You know, so something. You know,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
you know, would be interesting just so that to
Yep.
generate. But how do you do that outreach of getting people to be involved? You know, which I think something like the festivals that happen in the summer. You know, if there was the appetite to have a table at those festivals, you know, of a committee of say us.
You know, back in the day,
You know, and then we could talk to people as they come through
Sure.
and say, you know, would you be interested in joining our committee? Would you,
Absolutely.
to have that outreach?
select
It's so
select board
important.
members, that was, I hate to crank it back 80 or 100 years, but that would be something you'd find your select people at, would be
Yeah.
a town fair or whatever. They'd be shaking hands and kissing babies and
Yeah.
telling about what's going on in town, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, but
We did have one year, and I thought it was pretty successful, a volunteer fair, where all of the committees had a table in town hall, and
That's
it was open on a weekend, and you could go along and find out what the different committees
That's a
did.
great
and
idea, especially when I look at all the openings that are on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to be called a young man
Young man.
Young
that
man.
was interesting, but that was I appreciate you indulging me, because I've been literally thinking about it fairly consistently since the all board meetings as to wow,
Right.
that was like such a strange experience. For me, being at home during the situation, the pandemic that we've gone through, returning to some type of social environment. That was a pretty interesting situation for me.
Sorry, I missed it.
Nerd.
Okay. Anything else? So anybody else? No, we good.
Yes.
All right. It is
Should I move to close the meeting?
I'll second.
2024.
Vote?
All in favor?
All in favour?
To close the
Aye.
meeting.
Aye.
Close.
Aye.
Okay.